What's good, everyone? It's Dr. Nee here, the doc outside the box, and welcome to another 5-Minute Friday. We're gonna give you some fresh insight to get you ready for Friday as well as the rest of the weekend. Before we get into that, I want to read a couple of reviews from Apple Podcasts. First one is from med student Nikki. It says, great podcast for med students too. I believe so too. And it says, I'm a 4th-year med student and recently listened to the physician finance episodes with Miss Bonnie, MD. This is a great info before residency that we don't get in med school. And I learned about so many great resources that I can start listening to and reading during my 4th year down here. Thanks, DOTB. Med student Nikki, thank you very much for the 5-star review. Much appreciated. Hey guys, make sure you go back and check out that interview with Miss Bonnie, MD. I did that recording actually when I was at FinCon. I think it was last year, September of 2018 at FinCon in Orlando, Florida. And we had a good time talking. Definitely had a really good perspective from her. And make sure you go and support and read more about her, not just from my podcast episode, but also on her website, which is missbonniemd.com. The next review is from Lefford, LFERD. This was left April 1st, 2019. And it says, great episode with Dr. Renee, who is my wife. 5-star review. Thank you very much. It says, great episode talking about really being married in medicine. Definitely worth inspired. Well, I guess they're trying to say definitely inspired by this episode to do more planning and goal setting with wife. Need more of Dr. Renee to law. I got to think about that one. I know she's a fan favorite and stuff, but I got to think about that. Obviously, she brings an insight that is not normally heard on this podcast. And I mean, that's the reason why I married her. She's smarter than me and I married up. So you never know. I may get her on some future episodes. I know you guys have been clamoring for that. So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. But definitely what the future holds in this episode is we're going to be hearing from Dr. Berry. He was a previous guest. He was episode 96, and he hosts a podcast called The Lunch and Learn with Dr. Berry. It's a podcast that simplifies complex medical information for the common person to really and easily understand. Now, in this episode, he's going to give us some real insight on how he's able to get past fear, get past insecurity, as well as procrastination. I think you guys are going to like this one. I think you're going to love this insight. And I think it's going to set you off greatly for the upcoming weekend and week. So without further ado, I present Dr. Berry Pierre. So Dr. Berry, I think it's really interesting that you've kind of talked about all of these different obstacles that you've been able to get past from a mental standpoint, and even some of the things that have kind of held you back from really reaching your fullest potential. If there is such a thing, if you can reach your fullest potential. But can you give us some advice on how you've been able to get past fear or, insecurity or even some type of, procrastination to get to the point where you are right now?
I think, especially as a physician where, a lot of our training is you got to be perfect, right? We're unfortunately there's probably a couple of professions, right? But we're in one of the professions where if I'm not 100% perfect, right, someone can get hurt, right? And up to including death, right? And that's a scary thing to think about. And because as physicians in our training, we kind of compartmentalize it and put it in a little corner, right? We avoid that stress, right? We try not to even acknowledge it. And I think when I started doing all that I did, when I said, I want to branch out and do more despite my accomplishments, right? Despite someone telling me hey, Dr. Pierre, you've done enough, right? You went to medical school, you went to, the barracks, right? You went through the training, you went to the board. And even though I did all of that and still came out the end and said I wasn't doing enough, right? And almost disregarding the fact that someone said hey, that's enough. I said, that's not enough for me. And I had to take it almost like a personal march, right? To almost not box out all of the positive or what they assume was positive, right, comments to say hey, you've done okay, you've done enough, you're doing enough, you don't need to do any more, and say hey, I'm not doing enough. And when I started to look out and I started to see other people who were in the same position I was in, but were doing more than me, and then I realized that it was attainable. And then all of a sudden that veil of impossibility was lifted. That took me to the next level.
Hey guys, if you really enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more coming. Make sure you hit your subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. And also at the same time, leave me some feedback. Let me know what you think about this clip, this segment. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.